Have you ever believed that a strange-looking, often mocked and far from cool little car could actually save an entire brand from the brink of collapse? Today, we're diving into the little-known story of the 1961 Plymouth Valiant, a small but daring machine that quietly shouldered Plymouth's survival at a critical moment. It wasn't glamorous like the Mustang, it wasn't cheap like the Beetle. Instead, the Valiant proved a timeless truth. You don't have to be flashy to be a hero. It's a story of bold design choices, solid engineering, and the kind of stubborn reliability that won over families when it mattered most. Let's uncover why this unassuming car isn't just worth remembering. It deserves genuine respect, even decades later. Stick around as we explore what made the Valiant truly extraordinary. By the late 1950s, the American auto market was facing a seismic shift. The golden age of giant chrome-heavy land yachts was running headfirst into new realities. Cities were growing more crowded, fuel wasn't getting any cheaper, and a new generation of buyers wanted cars that made sense for everyday life. Smaller, more affordable, and more practical. Chevrolet had the Corvair. Ford rolled out the Falcon. Rambler surprised everyone with the American, which quickly became a hit. Meanwhile, Plymouth, a once proud name under Chrysler's umbrella, was losing its identity. Buyers saw its cars as watered-down Dodges, uninspired and forgettable. Sales were slipping badly, and Plymouth was at real risk of fading into irrelevance. Inside Chrysler, the alarm bells were ringing loud. Leadership knew they couldn't afford to lose one of their cornerstone brands, so they delivered an ultimatum to their design and engineering teams: come up with something entirely new to compete in this compact segment, or watch Plymouth die. But they didn't want just another cheap, stripped-down economy car. They wanted a car that could stand out in a crowded field, recapture the public's attention, and remind America why Plymouth existed in the first place. This was the mission that gave birth to the Falcon Fighter project. It wasn't just about survival, it was about reinventing a brand on the verge of disappearing. And it would take bold ideas, risky design choices, and rock-solid engineering to make it happen. Enter Virgil Exner, Chrysler's fearless design chief who refused to play it safe when the brand's very survival was on the line. Exner was the architect of the forward look, a design philosophy that didn't just follow trends, but aimed to drag the American car out of the past and launch it boldly into the future. He wasn't interested in building just another bland little compact to compete with the Falcon or the Corvair. He wanted something that demanded attention the moment you saw it. And the 1961 Plymouth Valiant delivered exactly that. It sported a sharp, pointed nose that looked ready to slice the wind, wide-set, frog-eye headlights that gave it an unmistakably alien presence, and body lines that swept and curved like something from a science fiction sketch. Around back, a dramatic wraparound rear window completed the look, making the Valiant seem more like a spaceship than a sensible family sedan. The press and the public didn't know what to make of it, and they weren't shy about saying so. Critics called it everything from a Martian's car to a budget rocket ship, mocking it as if it was some half-finished experiment. But Exner didn't flinch. He understood that in a sea of look-alike boxes, the worst thing you could be was forgettable. And beneath all those bold lines was real intent. The curves and angles weren't just for show. They were shaped to reduce drag and improve efficiency, a radical move for a compact in its day. Chrysler's message was clear. If you want to survive in a changing world, you don't just blend in, you stand out. You dare to be different. But the Valiant wasn't just a wild-looking experiment. It backed up its bold style with serious, forward-thinking engineering. While most American cars still clung to heavy, old-school body-on-frame construction, the Valiant went with a unibody design. This integrated frame and body made it lighter, stiffer, and better able to soak up the punishment of everyday city driving without feeling sloppy or cheap. It was a quiet revolution for an affordable compact car. Up front, Chrysler fitted it with torsion bar suspension, something usually reserved for their bigger, more expensive models. The result? A surprisingly firm and planted ride that handled bumps and corners with unexpected confidence. In the rear, they kept it smart and simple with traditional leaf springs, easy to maintain, tough as nails, and proven to last. Inside, Chrysler refused to treat the Valiant like a stripped-down economy special. Buyers got practical touches that felt downright luxurious for the class. A standard heater to take the chill off cold mornings, sound-deadening materials to keep the cabin quiet on the road, and even an optional push-button transmission selector mounted right on the dash, futuristic and fun at the time. And with its smaller footprint and tight turning radius, the Valiant was a natural fit for crowded city streets and tight parking spaces that left big sedans floundering. It was proof you didn't have to give up comfort or quality just because you chose something practical. In every detail, it showed Chrysler was determined to build a small car that thought big. Of course, the Valiant's true secret weapon lay under its modest hood, the legendary Slant 6 engine. Unlike typical upright inline sixes of its era, Chrysler engineers tilted this block 30 degrees to the right. It wasn't some design flourish. It was smart, practical engineering. That slanted layout lowered the hood line for better aerodynamics and a sleeker profile, while also shortening the engine's overall length to make the most of the Valiant's compact dimensions. But the brilliance didn't stop at packaging. The Slant 6 featured a long branch individual runner intake manifold, the result of Chrysler's advanced research into airflow and fuel delivery. The payoff? Surprising power and impressive fuel economy for a small car, especially in an era when economy often meant underpowered. The Valiant offered two displacements, 170 and 225 cubic inches. The 225 became the stuff of legend thanks to its strong low-end torque, making it perfect for city driving, pulling hills, or hauling loads without breaking a sweat. Mechanics quickly learned to respect it. Taxi companies, fleet operators, even the military relied on the Slant 6 in brutally demanding conditions. It earned a reputation as the engine that won't die, with many Valiants passing 200,000 miles without a rebuild. For buyers in the early 60s, this engine wasn't just another selling point, it was peace of mind, a promise that their practical little car could go the distance, year after year, mile after mile, no matter what they threw at it. Despite all its smart engineering and that famously unkillable Slant 6 under the hood, the Valiant ran into a strange and stubborn problem: image. On paper, it was exactly what Plymouth needed, and buyers noticed. In its very first year on sale, the Valiant moved over 194,000 units, delivering the sales lifeline Chrysler desperately needed to keep Plymouth alive. But while it sold well, it struggled to win hearts. Americans didn't see it as exciting or stylish. Instead, it picked up unflattering nicknames like "Old Man's Car" or "Retired Teacher's Ride," labels that stuck, despite the car's solid performance and real-world value. Young drivers turned up their noses, looking instead to sportier options with more curb appeal. And in the marketplace, it was stuck in a tough spot. It wasn't quite cheap enough to truly undercut the wildly popular VW Beetle, the king of budget transportation. But it also didn't have the flair or sex appeal to compete with flashier rivals like the Ford Mustang or even Chevrolet's Corvair. The result was a paradox. The car everyone bought, but no one really wanted to be seen driving. Practical-minded buyers recognized its durability, economy, and ease of ownership, but it didn't stir emotions or inspire pride in the driveway. For Plymouth, it was both a savior and a branding headache. A car that did exactly what it was supposed to do, even if no one wanted to admit they loved it. Adding to its complicated story was the Valiant's branding confusion, which haunted it from day one. When Chrysler first launched it in 1960, it wasn't even officially a Plymouth. Instead, it was simply Valiant by Chrysler, meant to stand as its own sub-brand, an ambitious plan to create a fresh, modern nameplate that could go head-to-head with imports and appeal to new buyers. But the execution was messy. Dealers didn't know where to put it on their showroom floors. Customers weren't sure if they were buying a Chrysler, a Plymouth, or something entirely new. Marketing wanted it to seem young and independent. Sales teams pushed to leverage the familiar Plymouth name to move units. By 1961, Chrysler gave up on the experiment, folding the Valiant into Plymouth's lineup just to stop the chaos. That early misstep left the car with an identity crisis in the US, a solid, well-built machine without a clear sense of self. But while it struggled to carve out a strong image at home, the Valiant found surprising and lasting success abroad. In Australia, it evolved into its own proud line, spawning the legendary Valiant Charger, a homegrown muscle car icon beloved to this day. Across Canada, Mexico, South Africa, and other markets, the Valiant earned a reputation as a rugged, dependable workhorse that could handle rough roads and remote conditions. In those places, it wasn't just a car, it was a lifeline, proof that Chrysler's little compact could be so much more than American buyers ever realized. In the end, the Plymouth Valiant never became the cultural icon that cars like the Mustang did, and maybe that's exactly what defines its quiet legacy. It didn't turn heads at the drive-in or make magazine covers, but it carved out something arguably more meaningful. It helped lay the foundation for the American compact car. At a time when Detroit struggled to figure out how to make smaller, more practical vehicles, the Valiant proved it could be done right. It wasn't just a big car shrunk down. It was designed with its own logic, its own engineering solutions, and its own personality. That honesty in purpose resonated with people who cared less about showing off and more about getting somewhere reliably and comfortably. Over the years, it's earned a special kind of respect. Younger collectors are drawn to it today because it's accessible, affordable, and refreshingly straightforward in a world of overcomplicated cars. Older enthusiasts remember it as a symbol of integrity, a car that didn't pretend to be anything it wasn't. The Valiant stands as a reminder that cars weren't always about flash and ego. Sometimes the most important thing a car could do was simply serve the people who relied on it, day in and day out. In that sense, the Valiant wasn't just another footnote in automotive history. It was proof that a humble, unpretentious machine could keep the world moving forward, 1 mile at a time. The Valiant was never about dazzling speed or flashy good looks, but in its honest simplicity, it kept history moving at a time when everything threatened to grind to a halt. It stood for reliability, integrity, and the idea that a car's real worth was measured by how well it served the people who depended on it. What do you think of this odd but loyal little car? Do you have memories or thoughts about humble machines that turned out to be truly great? Share your stories in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell so we can keep exploring these lesser-known but deeply worthy chapters of automotive history together.